The Gaza Strip is once again embroiled in a devastating conflict. Recent Israeli airstrikes have resulted in significant casualties, including many Palestinian civilians. The strikes targeted suspected terrorist infrastructure, but the human cost has been immense. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and the death toll continues to rise. The international community is grappling with the escalating violence and the urgent need to protect civilian lives. Adding to the turmoil, Israel has imposed a strict blockade on Gaza. This blockade severely restricts the flow of essential goods, including food, water, and medicine. The already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza has been pushed to the brink of collapse. The United Nations has issued urgent warnings about the deteriorating conditions and the potential for a full-scale humanitarian catastrophe. The recent escalation in Gaza is part of a long-standing conflict between Israel and Hamas, the militant group that controls the territory. Hamas continues to fire rockets into Israel, prompting Israeli retaliatory strikes. This cycle of violence has resulted in immense suffering for civilians on both sides of the border. The situation in Gaza demands immediate international attention. A ceasefire is urgently needed to prevent further loss of life and alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people. The international community must also work towards a long-term solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict and provides hope for a more peaceful future. The Gaza Strip is facing an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. The combination of Israeli airstrikes, the ongoing blockade, and the recent conflict has had a devastating impact on the civilian population. The healthcare system, already strained before the recent escalation, is on the verge of collapse. Hospitals are running low on essential medical supplies, and there is a critical shortage of doctors and nurses. The already precarious living conditions in Gaza have deteriorated dramatically. The blockade has severely restricted the import of essential goods, including food, water, and fuel. The shortage of clean water and sanitation facilities has increased the risk of waterborne diseases. The UN estimates that over 2 million people in Gaza are in need of humanitarian assistance. The international community has a moral obligation to act swiftly and decisively to alleviate the suffering in Gaza. Urgent humanitarian aid is needed to address the immediate needs of the population. This includes providing food, water, medical supplies, and shelter. The international community must also work to ensure the safe and unimpeded delivery of humanitarian assistance to those in need. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a stain on the conscience of the world. Failure to act now will have catastrophic consequences for the Palestinian people. It is imperative that the international community comes together to address this crisis and work towards a just and lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While Gaza burns, tensions are also running high on Israel's northern border with Lebanon. Hezbollah, the powerful Iran-backed Shiite militant group, maintains a significant presence in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah possesses a vast arsenal of rockets and missiles, posing a serious threat to Israel's northern cities and towns. Hezbollah has condemned the recent Israeli actions in Gaza and has expressed solidarity with the Palestinian people. While Hezbollah has not directly intervened in the current conflict, the group has warned that it will not hesitate to act if Israel expands its military operations into Lebanon. Israel has vowed to prevent Hezbollah from acquiring advanced weapons systems and has conducted airstrikes in Syria, targeting alleged arms shipments destined for the group. The Israeli military has also reinforced its presence along the Lebanese border, raising fears of a potential escalation. The situation on the Israel-Lebanon border is highly volatile. Any miscalculation or escalation could spark a wider conflict with devastating consequences for the entire region. The international community must urge both sides to exercise restraint and work towards de-escalation. Section 4. Global outcry and diplomatic efforts. The international community has reacted with a mixture of condemnation and concern to the escalating violence in Gaza and the potential for a wider conflict in the region. The United States, while a staunch ally of Israel, has expressed deep concern about the civilian casualties and called for a ceasefire. The European Union has condemned the violence and called for an immediate end to hostilities. The EU has also stressed the need for a negotiated two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on international law and previous agreements. The United Nations has called for an independent investigation into the civilian casualties in Gaza and has urged all parties to respect international humanitarian law. Diplomatic efforts are underway to try and broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Egypt, which has played a mediating role in previous conflicts, is actively engaged in efforts to de-escalate the situation. However, previous ceasefire agreements have proven fragile, and a lasting solution to the underlying issues remains elusive. Section 5. The wider Israel-Iran chessboard. The current conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon are playing out against the backdrop of a broader geopolitical struggle between Israel and Iran. Iran is a staunch supporter of Hezbollah and provides the group with significant financial and military assistance. Israel views Iran's nuclear program and its regional ambitions as a direct threat to its security. Israel has accused Iran of using Hezbollah as a proxy to threaten its northern border and has vowed to prevent the group from acquiring advanced weapons systems. Iran, in turn, has accused Israel of carrying out sabotage attacks against its nuclear facilities and supporting terrorist groups operating within its borders. The escalating tensions between Israel and Iran have raised concerns about the potential for a wider regional conflict. The international community is actively engaged in efforts to revive the Iran nuclear deal, which would place limits on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. However, the negotiations remain stalled, and the future of the agreement is uncertain.